Fantastic, man. Introduce yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Toby and I'm a youth worker at Top Blokes Foundation. So we're an organisation that delivers mental health programs in schools to young men.
How long have you been a part of the organisation for?
I'll be 3 years in November.
Over that time, how's that experience been for you?
It's been good. I spent most of my 3 years working with the team in Brisbane, and then last year in November I moved back to the Central Coast team. So it's been a bit of an adjustment, but I'm really enjoying being back home, and I guess that sort of provided me with a little bit of diversity, working with a few different facilitators and co-workers that I guess helped me develop my own sort of style of facilitation as well. It's been good.
What made you kind of like decide to get into doing the work we do with Top Blokes?
I guess sort of sports in my background growing up, a lot of team environments, and I'm also the oldest of my three brothers, so I think like the coaching sort of side of sports was a big part of my upbringing as well, coaching their teams coming through. And I guess being an older brother, being that role model, sort of this space I find is a bit of a merge of those two jobs. So a little bit of like coaching along with role modelling, which is what I really love about the job.
Tell me, what's your like kind of main roles or day-to-day kind of situation look like for you?
So a typical day for me is 3 different schools, different session at each school. So usually I'm on the Central Coast most days, so sort of start, have a morning session, deliver our content there that we need to cover, and then drive to the next school, same thing, and then the afternoon session as well.
So you're dealing with like different stages of the program as well when you go between the schools?
Yeah, so all the schools sort of have different start dates depending on when the school's able to get organised.
For sure.
But most of or pretty much all the topics that we cover in some way affect men's mental health.
Yeah.
Which is the whole purpose of our program, being a prevention and early intervention style program to help young boys develop their leadership skills, their character traits, or for a lot of boys even just build confidence in group settings and environments.
Yeah, I must say, like at the start of the program, do you notice what's the biggest kind of shift that you see with the majority of the guys, or like, you know, from when they start the program to when they finish the program?
I think for a lot of boys, realising their potential and helping them develop their leadership skills and confidence is probably one of the most common outcomes I see with the boys I work with. A lot of them come into the program really shy and reserved in the early stages, and I guess a little bit unsure, like a lot of people are when trying new things.
Yeah.
So just seeing them post-program, having the skills to communicate their thoughts, their opinions, but also being able to respect and empathise with others that have differing opinions. I think is a skill that we definitely try and hone in on and help them develop at Top Blokes.
What's one thing that you notice that the kids are kind of struggling with before, say, the program, or their influences, especially around masculinity, right? Like, you know, you're there to teach these young blokes, like, you know, pretty much, you know, the positive influence of having a positive masculinity role model like yourself. What are some things that you see that kids are struggling with before, say, before they do the program, or not even doing the program?
Yeah, I think we sort of touched on role models there, and I think in today's day and age they have so many mixed messages about masculinity. They have, I guess, probably the narrative that they see in the media a lot is that masculinity is a toxic thing or a negative thing. So really trying to get them to understand masculinity for what it really is, and trying to, I guess, empower them to be the men that they want to be. And I guess it is a little bit about finding the right role models to model that off, because a lot of the boys that we work with sometimes don't have great role models in their life, so they are leaning on us to be those role models for them.
Do you notice that like a lot of kids, they need it? They need a kind of role model to like aspire to be like, or especially because they're still trying to find each other, like still trying to find themselves, right? So Like, do you notice that like they're desperate to kind of like just latch onto something, and sometimes, especially because you got social media being like the direct funnel to influence out there of like how you're meant to live your life, like even at my age and like our age and stuff like that, we can still succumb to some of that, you know. Do you notice these kids like just wanting to latch on quick to things?
I think so, and I think if you look at an example that happened on social media a few years back with Andrew Tate being one of the, I guess, more outspoken figures in that masculinity space, whether it was positive or negative voices or messages that he was giving, I think that sort of showed how quickly or how desperate they are to find some sort of figure to lead the way.
Yeah.
So I think it's about trying to uncover positive role models rather than negative ones. But yeah, I think they're definitely desperate to latch on and find those role models.
Yeah.
And I think that was pretty clear with examples like Andrew Tate. Regardless of whether you agree or disagree with his messages, he did give young men a voice to follow. That they latched onto pretty quickly. Yeah,
and situations like that, and people that like influencers that are like that out there, is it in a positive way, looking at it as a positive way, as we're touching here. It's just like kids do need a place. It showed that like teenage boys especially need a place to voice their opinion, in a positive area, right? Like.
100%.
Hence why, like, top place, like things like Top Blokes exists, so then boys can have that inspiration to become a better man, or just be nicer to people, like look after themselves, right?
100%, and that's what we're trying to do, is create those safe spaces where they can have access to positive role models around them, and also connect them with some of their peers that they might not have necessarily associated with prior to our program, and trying to get them, I guess, on the same team and working together to uncover their own versions of who they want to be as a man in today's society. Because I don't think there is one specific way to be a man or to be a positive influence on those around you. And helping them try and uncover what feels authentic to them without getting caught up too much in messages from external places in society.
Yeah.
I think it's super important, because I think if they're to base their behaviour too much off what they're being told to be or to do, that's when you're going to have young boys living lives that don't feel natural to them or that they feel uncomfortable with. And I think that can potentially lead to mental health challenges down the track, is when they feel like they're not being true to themselves. So just really trying to, I guess, teach them about those influences on their masculinity, but then also giving them a space to find their own version of what a good man is.
Yeah.
Is super important.
Yeah, that's huge, man. In terms of the programs and like sessions and topics that you run, I guess what do you feel like is the most impactful one for the guys?
Like pre and post evaluations with our boys prior to the program and then after the program. And I think a clear standout from the data that we collect is mental health is the most impactful for them, which I think can surprise us sometimes as workers, given that it is a bit more of a lower energy workshop that we deliver, and a little bit more potentially confronting or challenging for them to talk about. But yeah, the data's pretty clear that they find that the most impactful workshop.
Yeah.
Which is awesome to see, because that's at the core of what we do, is we are a mental health organisation. So it's good to see that that's felt by the boys as well, not just from our point of view.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So within the program and stuff like that, and over the past 3 years, like you've experienced, someone's story or something changed, like, it's something that's impacted you from like, one of these kids going through the program?
I think the first one that stands out or that comes to mind is a boy that we had in one of our programs recently, who at the start of the program, we sort of kick off talking about alcohol and drugs. They're the first two workshops we discussed, and it was pretty clear during those workshops that he had a lot of exposure and a lot of bad habits, or a bad relationship with alcohol and other drugs. Mental health sort of followed that, and we were having discussions with him about that too. It was pretty clear that his habits when it came to alcohol and drugs, as well as his sort of upbringing and background, all sort of conspired into this challenge for him with his mental health. And sort of post-program, or throughout the program, just seeing him grow and developing the confidence was a huge thing. And then post-program, pulled us aside, me and my co-worker, for a conversation, just to thank us. And the way he did it was just the most genuine and sincere way. And then as we were sort of walking off, he just sort of said, thank you one more time, and that the program changed his life. When we sort of tried to go deeper into that and ask how that impacted or changed his life in such a way, he had some pretty big disclosures around the true extent of the mental health challenges he was facing, and also the habits he was sort of getting caught up in with the people he was hanging around, and then using other drugs as well. So we sort of didn't realise the true extent of it. He only hinted at certain parts of it. And when we tried to go deeper, he didn't really want to go deeper into it. But then post-program, when he sort of came out with that, sort of made me really stop and reflect on how big of an impact we can have when we are delivering our programs.
Does it kind of make you feel like sometimes you just learn to not judge your book by its cover sometimes? You kind of like, you know, some of these kids come in and you just don't think that like they're really going through much, but you then realise like after these programs is either done or gets through it, you're like, holy crap, like these kids have actually been dealing with something and you've created this safe space for them to come out.
100%. I think we all know that everyone's going through their own challenges in their personal life, and that, you know, we don't have the full access to see the extent of those challenges. So it is sometimes a little bit hard to recognise that in the moments, and particularly when there's challenging moments throughout a program, and you might feel like the boys aren't quite grasping what we're talking about, or feel like we're having the impact that we want to be having. It's only sort of later on that we realise the true impact that we are having, and that everyone is going through their own challenges, and it's about trying to, if they want to, give them a safe space to share that, but also giving them the freedom to go as deep or as shallow as they want, without sort of pressuring them or making them feel like they have to share. Because I think when it comes to challenges or people's personal lives, everyone's got a different threshold on how much they're actually willing to talk about or give away to the public.
For sure. And how do you build that relationship with the kids to like kind of allow them to open up?
I think for me, it sounds so cliche, but just being genuine and authentic. I think as soon as you start trying to pretend you're someone you're not, or you're being dishonest with the boys about your own past experiences or your own challenges, and it gives them a free license to do the exact same in return. So I think a big part, role modelling that vulnerability in different ways, whether it's through storytelling or whether it's just sharing like a challenge that you might be going through. Say like we often do check-ins at the start of every workshop where we'll go around and say, 1 to 10, how you feeling today? 10 is good, 1's bad. And I think for us, it's really important to role model and be honest in those check-ins too. Like if we are having a bad day, or feeling a bit tired, or there's something going on, to acknowledge it and be upfront about it, because then it invites them to do the same. And I think that's the biggest superpower with vulnerability, is that it helps drive that connection and that trust between a relationship. Whether it's worker to student, or whether it's co-workers, if it's in a personal relationship. And that vulnerability really drives that connection and understanding between two people. So really trying to lean into that space as well, and show them that it is okay to be vulnerable, and that there's, I think a lot of people see vulnerability as this big emotional expression, but it doesn't always have to be. It can just be being honest with how you're feeling when someone asks you, or anything as simple as that. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. So telling those stories, telling the experiences, and sharing yourself to on your day-to-day basis, shows, right?
Definitely.
So man, being that you get to mentor these kids, high school and stuff like that, what kind of advice would you give yourself if you could go back in time? at that age?
I think for me it would just be to back myself and not doubt my ability so much, and just sort of know that doing the work is going to look after the end result anyway. So I think I see it in a lot of these boys as well, is they don't realise what they're truly capable of, even if they do have like extremely supportive people around them like I did growing up. It doesn't always, I guess, directly sink into those boys' minds of what they're truly capable of. And I think that, I guess, not so much fear of failure, but just that little bit of self-doubt can stop people from going all in on a passion or a interest that they do have.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just back yourself and do the work, and the result will look after itself, would be my advice.